All right, I'd like to call to order the Thursday, April 15th meeting for the Keizer's Traffic Safety, Bikeways, and Pedestrian Committee. First item on the agenda will be the volunteer appreciation.
Good evening. My name is Larry Jackson. I'm on the Volunteer Coordinating Committee with the City of Keizer, and once a year we have cookies that we give out to you because you guys are so, and ladies, I'm sorry. We want to say thank you for stepping up and giving of your time to the community of Keizer and the City of Keizer. It is greatly respected of the people on the committee and the community what you are all doing with the Traffic Safety Byways Committee. I want to thank you personally. Thank you from me and the rest of the community. And if you have other friends and family members or whoever, if you know what we do here in the community, that it takes all of us to make the city work well. So, and get your opinions to different things that's going on. So with that, again, thank you very much. And should I just take the cookies around, or do you want them passed?
Larry, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is that a Men of Action of Keizer shirt that you're wearing?
It is. Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering.
And we're always doing that, and that is, you don't have to be a member of the chamber. It's just a group of men that kind of from the chamber started, and we gather, and Bob Shackelford and a couple other gentlemen have an email address that they send out when there's something of need in the City of Keizer, for the most part, to help. We've helped move books from one of the rooms here for the library. This weekend we collected food barrels for the Keizer Food Bank, and then the McNary High Graduation Committee was raising money at the same time with a can drive and selling Krispy Kreme donuts. So that was some stuff that was just happening this weekend, and the guys just gonna help move the barrels and taking them down to the church. So all kinds of different activities that way too.
All right, well,
Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks, Mike.
Okay, moving on. So we have the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Do we have a first?
I'll make a motion to
Yes.
approve the minutes from last month.
We have a motion, and we have a second to approve last meeting's minutes?
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a second? Thank you. All in favor? Thanks again. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
Staying. Oh, well, I'm here.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 1, 2,
Eminem
3,
girl.
4, 5 ayes and 1 abstention.
Actually, two, don't you weren't at the last meeting, were you? I haven't done that.
He came in late.
Came in a little bit late.
6:06.
He came in a little after.
Thank you very
late.
much.
You were late?
It's awesome.
Okay.
Good to see you.
6:06.
Oh, okay.
And you duly noted that.
Okay,
Mark it on my attendance chart.
thank you.
Take care.
Moving on, we have the time for the appearance of interested citizens who can talk about a topic that is not on the agenda. Anybody who would like to talk? Okay. The next is the Wheatland Road Multimodal Corridor Survey. Hirsch, that's his baby. He's not here. I don't suppose you have any information on that, Mike or Debbie? Okay. Okay. The next one is the Independent Sidewalk Program. I have still not been able to hear back from the person I talked to originally. I actually reached out to one of the people that put me in touch with him, and we had a slight email exchange on Sunday, but I haven't heard back from her now. So I unfortunately do not have anything more to report on that as of yet, but fingers crossed, next meeting I will have some more information on it. All right, so we'll move on now to the project, unless anyone had questions. Does anyone have questions about?
No.
Okay. Project reports, the ODOT Community Path Program.
I really have nothing new on that.
Okay.
Mike brought it up several months ago about, gee, if we could have a path along Claggett Creek from the middle school to the I think that was you brought that up. I mentioned that last night to the, Shane, is that the planning
Yeah.
boss? And Shannon, and they thought that had been brought up before on the Parks Committee several years ago. And that, who's the lawyer that was,
Shannon,
no, the lawyer who was on the Parks Board who kind of pushed through the Keizer Rapids Park.
Richard Walsh.
Walsh, right. He was very interested in that at one time. I'm just bringing it up as just information. Although they said there would be interesting with the wetlands laws and all of that stuff.
Mr. Chair, if I might, we asked the lawyer that question about what we can do in that area. And we're severely limited because of the presence of the wetlands. Just to give you an example, apparently some of the trees that were damaged in the ice storm, they haven't been repaired yet or taken care of, cleaned up because of the presence of the wetlands. So they're working through that. So it's been that is something,
Is your mic on?
is that better? That is something that's on the radar, but it's not something that's probably going to get addressed anytime in the next 12 to 24 months simply because of the wetland issues and certainly not because of the ice storm.
Right. So just as a refresher, I have heard back from the Corps about that because the state doesn't have an easement on that, but the Corps of Engineers does. And the only discussion that we've had so far has been, pretty high level, 50,000 foot sort of discussion. But she did mention that if there was, a safety community connection link for this, they're open for discussion. So we can have more further discussion with Bill, and I suppose the city, of course, the parks folks would
Yeah,
want.
I just brought it up because I mentioned it because it was when we were talking about connecting neighborhoods, keeping the neighborhoods connected as opposed to the way they are now.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah. So we should keep a thought on that, especially if for some reason there was some huge infrastructure grants showing up in the next 18 months or something. That something like that might fit in.
Yeah.
Because I know that other areas have done it. I was up in Long Beach. They've got a boardwalk that's in, all along their wetlands. It's in the, part of it's in the wetlands. It's big posts keeping it out of the water. And
Yeah.
so I'm not sure so those are federal laws that there's ways around them.
Yeah. I know there's something like that over in Tillamook on the Kilgis.
Yeah.
They have something like that. Wayne, did you
As
say?
far as ODOT Community Path Program, we missed last year for applying for this year, and I think it's a 2-year program. So we want to look at this in more detail, next year and start generating more enthusiasm for it. The Claggett Creek Path is a good one, and then the other one near
Keizer
Volcano Stadium connecting to Country Glen Park is another possibility. Just to keep that idea alive.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So, sort of in that same vein, Stephen, do you have anything?
Yes, my most recent initiative with this has been going around to meet with the neighborhood associations to one, kind of sort of introduce the kinds of things that we're doing and solicit input. This was reasonably good timing for this since most or all of the neighborhood associations just started resuming meetings this month. And so on April 1st, I attended the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association meeting, and on the 8th attended the West Keizer Neighborhood Association meeting. And after this meeting, the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association will be meeting, and I'll be attending that meeting, mostly to introduce, talk about some of the things that we are trying to do to foster sidewalk building, neighborhood connectivity, the Independence like sidewalk program being one, the ODOT Community Path program being another, talking about what we hope will be the upcoming reworking of the Keizer Transportation System Plan, our efforts to look into the availability of grant programs for sidewalks and interconnectivity, and the Safe Routes to School program, among other things. And both of the committees were, I think, really appreciated the outreach and the connection with them. I introduced this as something that I hope will be sort of a dialogue and iterative process. I think, talking about something like the Community Path program, getting the neighborhood input into what we might try to request and getting their support behind that, I think will be important. As with all of these things, I think one of the things I talked about with them was the idea of the more of us that are on the same page with pushing particular programs either to the city council or to other entities that might be providing grants or other support, the better it is. And so I think, as I say, each of the associations I met with so far have said, they're going to look at what they need to do to figure out what the most desirable programs would be for them, what their priorities are, and communicate that to us, and we can continue talking to them, and I think we'll be moving forward on that kind of basis.
Okay. Did anyone throw out any ideas yet, or is it still?
There were a couple of ideas that were sort of floated around, though I don't think anybody was ready to commit to, this is our number one priority.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association asked about was information. Are there street inventories that Keizer has similar to the sidewalk inventory that was worked up that could be used to figure out, what's the traffic capacity, what's the condition of the roads, what might need the most work? And also asked about the availability of accident reports by neighborhood to see, where are the danger spots that they might be looking at.
Okay. That might be something that Mike would know where we could get our hands on that. I assume we have something like that?
For the streets, we have a PCI rating, which is the Pavement Condition Index. And every 5 years, we redo that study with Marion County. And they go around driving the streets and enter into a computer and figure out, rating them from 100 is a newly paved street like River Road that was just done, to a 0, which would be a gravel road. So those streets fall in between that range. And then once a year, we go through money provided, and we'll go through and we'll rate the streets and then physically drive them to compare that to what the study showed the street did, put our eyes on it basically. And then from that, we generate our paving list that we go about and put on the summer's paving list for local streets or bigger projects like the recent one on River Road. So that's already something we have.
Is that more or less readily available to citizens, can you go online to see that, or is that something?
I'm not sure if it's online. It's a tool that we use to, to put certain streets on the resurfacing project. So I'll have to check with
Yeah, if
Debbie.
you
I'm
check
not sure
into
if it's
that,
online, but
just
I
to
can
see if
surely
that's-
share that with you. I don't see why.
Fantastic.
And when was the last time that was done?
Last year,
Is that just a spreadsheet or is that a GIS thing?
it's an Excel spreadsheet, and you have to go through a company, and there's a formula, and you put in how many longitudinal cracks, how many horizontal cracks, and then how many feet and existing condition, and there's some factors that play into that then come up with that number.
Okay, thank you. So Stephen, you said tonight the Gupser one?
Yes.
Okay. And one thing I was thinking of, probably after this first go around and maybe after the survey, but maybe just after we've reached out to all the neighborhood associations and any other neighborhood groups, I suppose, that might not have a neighborhood association. See if we bring, someone could remind me her name, the Safe Routes to School coordinator. What's that? McCray, thank you. And then maybe there's a way to narrow the focus to try and get a little more focused around the schools too. All right, thank you. Okay, so the sidewalk inventory is, again, we're kind of waiting on a few steps before that, and then the NACDO discussion, which I hope to tie in with the traffic safety, or I'm sorry, not traffic safety, the transportation plan.
Well, one thing I neglected to mention is I want to thank Deb for preparing the map that I've been hauling around to these neighborhood associations, printing off that the sidewalk inventory with the ADA, and so that's been really helpful, and I think people like seeing that. So
Thank you. Yeah. Hirsch is not here, although I saw the email exchange between Mike and Hirsch about ordering some additional helmets.
And helmets were ordered yesterday, and they should be in end of the week or first of next week, so
All right, great, thank
they'll be
you.
here shortly.
Jamie's, yours is paused until August. We could probably, for mine, Debbie, probably put paused until the surveys are out.
Until, the Wheeling Road survey?
No, yeah, until we get the results from that. All right, David, the sidewalk grant research?
Next to nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't find anything. The only hope is that this new federal infrastructure program is such a shotgun approach that something might show up there. I'm assuming Public Works is paying, it would probably get the information before we would, assuming it probably comes to the state, I would guess, first, and we'll see what ODOT does with it.
And we're awaiting clarification to see how that money can be used and where we can put it to
Yeah.
benefit us. And so we're unsure right now, so we're kind of
Yeah.
like, well, we should have some ideas, so let's focus over here and kind of put some things together, but not knowing
Yeah.
what we can do, it's kind of
Yep.
hard.
Yep.
I think if we do have projects in mind, we want to define those projects and have them ready in case there is some additional infrastructure money that becomes available. So whatever projects we're looking at, let's clearly define them.
Mhm.
It's-
Well, so assuming money comes sooner than later, that would sort of kind of front load everything we're trying to do with the neighborhood associations and the inventory, or even the survey. So,
Yeah, if we've done our homework, if we've done our community outreach, and we define the projects, and then I'm hoping we'll be ready when the money becomes available, if it becomes available.
okay. Yeah, who knows if it's when and if, but hopefully. Okay, And Rick, you were working on the same thing. Did you have any?
No, not on that subject, but, Michael, I sent you an email, I don't know if you got it or not, if there is going to be if there is going to be a TSP update anytime in the future, and if they're looking for a person or two from this committee to be on a technical advisory committee, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring for that.
Yeah, I think.
Can I comment? Last night at the planet, I think it was after, it was right at the end of the meeting. They're applying to ODOT or to the state of Oregon for a grant for the transportation system plan update. And so they've applied for that and now they're waiting for a response. So they hope that that's going to be within 2 years.
The question is whether or not it's going to be an update or a revision. Apparently, for the LCD, there's a difference between the two. Only the LCD, but, so it's, what we're told is we will get something, it's just, the question is, is it going to be a revision or an actual update?
Yeah.
And is that?
I think it was an assessment,
Is that what it is,
Uh-huh,
assessment?
an
Yeah,
assessment.
Assessment.
which sounds like they look at it and decide, no.
Yeah, it was,
Wait, who does the assessment? The LCD or?
well, we do as a community, but
We usually have to hire somebody to, that's why they.
Yeah, was done in 2014? Was that, the consultants were employed to assess the system plan and see if it was still viable?
so that's where they're at.
Okay. So,
And it has to match with what's the local government combination group?
Mid-Valley Cog?
Yeah, Mid-Willamette Valley, whatever.
It's got-
They have to mesh with what they have
well,
in the
MY.
works. Hmm?
It's with MY and what they've done. And so, and SCAT, I mean, there are a whole host, it's got to mesh, I suppose, it could be a term used. It's got to work, it's got to integrate, that's the word I'm looking for, with other transportation plans as well, in particular Salem, because we share the road traffic. So I don't know what the process is at this point outside of we've applied for the grant and we're waiting here.
So, to what David was saying about the 2 years, is that that grant would be for the assessment, or is that grant for?
No,
I don't know.
it's for either either they're funding an assessment or an actual update of the TSP. They're not knowing.
But that is within the next 2 years that we would know. Is
I
that?
think he said, was I right on the time? Was trying to remember.
We were told that we would get a definitive answer by the end of October, so about the grant and what the grant could be used for. Outside of that, how long it takes.
How long it
I
takes.
don't know the answer to that.
Right. So,
So that's in the works.
yeah.
And they did mention that they would expect a couple people from this committee to be involved in
Mhm.
something. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would certainly like to be too, so that would be two. I guess one question I'm chewing on here is, so somebody's making an assessment whether we need to revise or update the TSP. Is that something that some third party comes in and says you don't need to do it and we just say, okay? Or is it,
I don't know the answer to that.
okay, is that,
My sense is that it's probably something that's done between at the staff level here, and they probably have an outside consultant for everything these days. So they probably have a consultant who can come in and assist with the assessment, if that's in fact what it is.
but that's what the grant, that's what you need the extra.
Right.
That's what you need the money for.
Sure, I just, what I'm trying to get at is, worst case scenario, we get a grant to hire a consultant who works with staff to determine we don't need to do a revision. When I would say, looking at what we have right now, needs a revision. So I guess what I'm trying to say is,
It's your opinion that we need to update the TSP.
yes, and that we'd like to, I guess, have some conversations when the consultant, if and when the consultant gets hired, to hear their rationale.
We're in the plan.
What's that?
We will be contacted, he said.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right, well, Planning Commission report, that was Hirsch, who is not with us tonight.
But David came,
So do you have?
and so did Wayne.
Yeah,
Both there.
Wayne's been out, he's been out all this week, playing around at night.
Yeah.
3 times this week.
Do you have anything there?
Yeah, I do. We learned that the Planning Commission is working on their, some proposed text amendments to the Keizer Development Code. And these amendments they were talking about parking requirements for various types of properties. And they were also talking about...
That was just for Cherry, the river.
Oh, yeah,
Cherry
yeah,
overlay?
primarily the River Cherry Overlay District, RCOD. And they're also talking about some revisions to infill development standards. The revisions that they were talking about were approved, just to change the verbiage. The goal is to make it so it's easier for builders to build, I believe is where they're going with that, without quite so many restrictions. Okay? Here's my first Planning Commission. I also learned that the traffic repair station that we were looking at putting at Kennedy and the Boys and Girls Club area, that's been located at Keizer Rapids Park, and it's near the big toy, it's already installed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for doing that.
Right?
Can I ask, so the parking requirements for the River Cherry overlay, did they make a decision on that, or they
Yes.
just
They
talked?
accepted the change in verbiage.
Oh, okay.
It went from, was it 3 to 2 cars per
It went from like 2.3 or parking spots down to 2, which
2,
is,
yeah.
it makes a little more sense. You don't drive a 0.3 car, percentage of a car. They didn't talk anything about, they didn't say anything about bike racks, which probably should be included in any parking allocation discussion. If you have more bike racks, then you don't need as many cars,
I agree.
and you don't need as many parking spots.
I agree. And it'd also be nice to have a discussion on making sure that when they are installed,
The
good
right-
ones are installed and well located too.
Yes, and secure.
And secure, yeah. So was that 2 per now, that's the minimum?
I don't know all the details, but and it depends on the type of property.
Mhm.
But they've got a really large document here that I haven't digested yet.
Okay,
It's a lot.
yeah. All right, well, that sounds good. Thank you for the update. So committee member input. We'll start with Rick. Any input?
I was not paying attention there, but I did have a question. Mentioned Keizer Rapids Park. We went for a ride the other night, just drove down through there. There are a lot of people there. A lot of people, a lot of kids in the big toy, and I didn't see a mask in the whole place. So what's the rules right now about masks in city parks? I mean, I'm sure they weren't all the same family member either.
I don't know.
I think it's one of those things that it's impossible to enforce. I mean, everybody knows what the rules are. We don't have staff to go around and fuss at people when they don't have them on.
You know, there's an age too. I can't remember what it's like, is it 2?
It's age 2, yeah.
Mm.
Anybody over age 2 is supposed to have.
Yeah, I would imagine more often than not there are, especially kids.
You know, nobody licks the slides.
I'll
Not
go and see
anymore.
my granddaughter. I think she did. I remember.
Okay, so move on to Stephen.
When I met with the Southeast Keizer neighborhood, they had a couple of questions or concerns that weren't strictly having to do with connectivity or neighborhood connectivity. One was about traffic at Brooks and Alder and whether there could be some sort of traffic calming device there, like a raised sidewalk, particularly because of the school there and the kids crossing over there. So, not something like speed bumps, but that just like a raised sidewalk would slow people down, and
Yeah.
that kind of possibility. Consider something like that. Also, where Alder hits Cherry and Manbrin hits Cherry, a lot of people cross there, but pedestrians, but cars don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to them, and wondered whether some signage might be available or appropriate to put there. So
Isn't there a street light there?
I
Manbrin
don't
and,
know.
Manbrin and Cherry?
There might be.
There's a blank.
It's a four-way stop.
Four-way
Four-way
blinker, yeah.
stop, and,
I think it's four-way.
even with that there, I am actually live in that area. It is, even in the morning, it's nothing blocking people. It just seems like, what would be really cool to have? It came up with this, is the flags, like maybe a red flag or something that they can have on each corner so that kid could
We've
pick it up
talked
and
about
walk
that.
Done that.
I think we tried it
across
too,
with
and it,
one.
Yeah.
Pedestrian
Yeah.
flags?
Yeah, pedestrian flags. That would be nice to at least see on one of the corners, the one that would be Columbia Bank is here. I don't see many people walking this side. It's this side that, like, the kids are not being watched. I'm honking horns to make people stop and see the kid in the middle of the street. So
I'm sorry, you said the kids aren't being watched?
they, like,
They're not seeing
the person in the car
People
did
aren't
not see them
running
walk
across.
and many a times this is happening over the last probably 9 years that I've seen. And that's going to work at between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning.
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chair, about this issue? This is obviously critically important. It would be helpful, I think, if somebody could type something up that we could present to council and say, here's an issue that the traffic committee has identified, a potential issue. It would be helpful if I had that, if we had that, and I could say to the, and I'll mention it on Monday at the city council meeting, in my liaison report, but it would be helpful if I could say to them, here's, your traffic safety committee, whose primary function is to promote traffic safety, they've done their job, they've gone out to a neighborhood association, they've come back with feedback on an area that they think is unsafe. Here is, and here's what your committee has found, this is the hard work your committee has done, and this is what they've come up with.
Okay.
That would be very helpful.
In the past, when incidents, an area where people are driving too fast, they're not stopping for pedestrians and things like that, unfortunately tonight, but usually we have a police department representative, and we mentioned that to him, and they go look to see, one,
They
is
do.
that really occurring? And then when they put somebody out there and give a few tickets, it kind of, well, if that's what really, something's going wrong, they'll give the tickets, and the problem kind of disappears. Or, because it's probably not an infrastructure problem, it's the driver problem, which requires the police department involvement. And in the past, I understand what you're saying, but in the past, that's worked pretty well.
But Steve is talking about the association, about an infrastructure change. And so that would be, I may pass it on to council.
Well-
And Mike may say, yeah, Ross, well, whatever, who knows what happens, but at least that's a good way to get.
Well, that's a solution to an unrecognized problem. Somebody's come up and complained about something, granted, and it probably is a problem, but we really don't know that it is yet. And so when people come up with solutions, speed bumps, stop signs, widening the street, narrowing the street, those are all solutions. And we tend to get into that way before the analysis.
I'm just saying, it would be nice to give that to the council, to staff, and say, there's apparently a problem here.
That, yeah, at that stage.
Councilman Ross, I'll go ahead and write that letter and get that over to you by the end of the week.
That would be great.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
And I would just say, and pushing back a little bit on you, David, is that intersection is, the crossings are ridiculously wide for, I know it's a fairly busy intersection, but if you want to,
Wide?
wide, it's a really wide street coming from Manbrin coming to Cherry is very wide.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a blinking light, but there's also a lot of signals to the driver, hey, you can drive faster here, so.
Yeah, I think it's
So-
just the size of the children. Sometimes they can be halfway through there and they go to turn and they're not quite in the middle of the street.
Mhm.
And that's when I'm honking, like, stop, stop. So
Yeah,
I will
Oh,
definitely,
that'd be great.
I will definitely write that letter for you.
Thank you.
And the other one is, which grade school is that?
The closest is Weddle and Claggett.
Okay, then whoever runs the flagger guards at those two schools, is there, I take it there's no flagger there?
Yes, there, or not at the
Not at
Manbrin
Manbrin.
and Cherry, no,
Right,
that's
but-
way
but-
too far. That's actually over a mile out from the school, so there wouldn't be
Well,
there.
If the kids are still walking, it doesn't really make any difference.
True.
I mean, we have flaggers on Wheatland for one kid. I mean, I know who the kid is and we're the flagger. So, I mean, and they do put them out there, so.
Yeah, the flaggers are up at the top of the hill and at the bottom of the hill.
Maybe
And
they're fine with-
sometimes a little bit, I think it's the Alder Manbrin that you're talking, or Alder and Manbrin that you're talking about, that there is a flagger sometimes there. They haven't been there this year, though.
It's a busy intersection, I agree with that.
well, it's Stephen, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say, Jimmy, you might want to touch base with Ken Gearloff at the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association.
Yeah,
I was gonna, since we're talking about it, if it gets overwhelming going to all of the committee, or to the, I would be willing to help out and maybe tag along to see how.
Well, I think,
you do
yeah,
it
I mean,
first.
the last association we had the introductory thing with is Gubser, and that's tonight, and then I think we'll, that would be very helpful, and so we
Okay.
can talk about that as we get a little farther along in this.
did you have something to say, Wayne?
Yeah, I do. Jamie, 5 years ago when I started traffic committee, my first idea was pedestrian flags. And I did a little research on it and I did some costing. They're not expensive. But the problem at the time is I was looking at River Road. Well, you don't want to put them on River Road, but Manbrin and Cherry would be a good
Starting point,
choice, not as busy as River Road.
yeah.
And I have a whole bunch of information that I could send
Well,
to you.
let's talk to,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you have it in email, let's forward it on over.
Okay.
But if his meeting is Monday night, I can throw something together to get that to him. I don't know if you'll have enough time to get
Yeah,
that
I
to me
do.
tomorrow.
Yes, I
So I
do.
can look it over the weekend. Okay.
And that might even work too with the Brooks Alder intersection. That's a two-way stop, not a four-way, so,
It
and,
is a two-way stop.
yeah, it's just
It
the
is.
north-south stop, not the east-west.
So are we thinking of pedestrian flags there also?
No,
think that would be a good
couldn't
idea.
hurt to look at it. Stephen, you had some more? Any other concerns?
It was Keith, what was the name again for the association?
Ken Gearloff,
Ken.
G-I-E-R, yeah.
You do? I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so if you have nothing else, I'll move to David. Any committee member input there?
Yeah, three, four things. I was with Wayne last night at the Planning Commission. Interesting, in case you haven't heard, the tentative long-range projection for growth, population growth in Keizer, tell me if I heard it right. They had estimated 10,000 in the next 15 years. They revised that now down to 5. But that's tentative, so it's probably not real accurate. But their idea is, the population people is the Salem Keizer area is going to be, it will still grow for a while, peak out not too far in the future, and then go into a long-range decline in population. That's the, was it 30-year plan? Did I get that right,
Yeah,
Wayne?
you did. And they also had like two different reports they were looking at. They said it might decline by as much as like 50%.
Yeah.
And so they were talking about whether or not they wanted to develop transportation system plans or other planning ideas on reports that, we don't know how accurate those reports are.
Yeah, it was just an
And-
interesting fact, if you hadn't, because I'd never heard it, I was kind of, wow, that's really interesting. I don't know if I like it or not.
Did they have any explanation why?
Yeah, they gave some explanations about how old we are and where people are moving to, and the fact that there are very few kids in the Keizer area, and people aren't moving out of Keizer, and so as they get older, the kids are leaving. And so that the population will, the average age of the population will keep going up and up and up and dying off, but nobody's moved, the younger people aren't staying or moving into the area. So that's, but they're theorizing, so don't take that as a fact.
Well, yeah,
It's just- And they have, what was, do you remember another reason?
Birth rate.
Hmm?
The birth rate. they-
Oh, the birth rate in Oregon is down. Oh, and the number of people moving into Oregon is down. So
Finally.
I know, it doesn't look like it sometimes. Anyway, that was just an interesting piece of information.
That is interesting.
Okay, and we talked about the grant, okay? And I have an issue, I guess, it's not an issue, it's just an idea. It hasn't got anything to do with kids this time. It has to do with people my age. I just wondered if there was any way, and I would assume the police department would do it, the traffic people, that we could educate better people over, at a pick an age, 65, 70, whatever, I'm over all of those, need some education about driving. I don't mean behind the wheel training, I'm just saying, do you know you're not supposed to drive in a bike lane all the way from Lock Haven to River Road on Chemawa? Do you know that you probably should try and go close to the speed limit? I live out on Wheatland, and we have, I even almost know their names, the people who drive about 25 coming in from the Lutheran homes into Safeway, because I follow them. And it's a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, which isn't excessive or anything, but I just didn't know if it's just ignorance or if it's fear, there's not much we can do about it. But if we had some sort of education program, just to put it out there for people to make sure everybody knows what the laws are. Just think about, bicycles, Wayne, when you bike like on Wheatland Road and the bike lane disappears at, is it, what street, Jack Street? Anyway, once you hit the city limits, there's no more bike lanes. And the speed limit jumps up to 55 before you get to Brook Lake Road.
You're thinking Jay's.
J Street, is that it? Anyway, it's dangerous, but people need to know that they can't run the bikers off the road and that the bicycles are going to be out in the lane. There's no bike lanes out there, right? So anyway, just information like that needs to be put out there somehow. I don't know if we need to go through the newspaper, the local radio station, the police department, going to the retirement centers and do a little 10-minute presentation, just something. I just want you to think about it, that's all.
I think one of the problems is that the only time people look at the Oregon driver's manual is just before they take the written test.
Yeah.
Because all that's in there, and it gets
I know.
updated, and nobody, if you took the driver's test in 1970, probably haven't looked at
I don't even want to tell you when I took my
Yeah.
driver's test in 1950 something. Anyway, yeah,
AARP offers a class to seniors, and if you take it, they give you a certificate and you can turn it into your insurance company and get your insurance lowered.
AARP.
AARP, and they have it, well, I took it a few years ago just for the very reason that it had been a long time and I thought it'd be a good idea to get a refresher. And it's at the senior center.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, that's some things like that. I just wanted to bring that up.
Just to interrupt, we could, maybe next time we do a bike helmet giveaway thing. We could have some type of board or something that could,
Yeah.
a game where people have
Good
to.
luck. Just as a comment, I was out driving today, the Keizer Public Schools has switched to small, not everywhere, to smaller buses. They must have bought a bunch of them. They're about half the size of the regular bus. It's a nice, interesting safety issue because I think the smaller the bus, the quicker it stops and the less, you still have to stop for it. But I mean, it takes up less space lengthwise on things, on the side streets. It was just a nice thing to notice.
David, what's really cool about that is our McNary is actually has the C-Tech kids in the automotive section helping maintain those vehicles.
Oh, good.
So this is like a
But you-
all-around kind of
yeah.
helping thing.
That's nice.
So, but you're right, there is about I think it's 15, a fleet of 15 that they purchased,
I
and
saw
they're all
4
parked
of
up
them
at the
this morning,
McNary
one
High
school.
School.
Is this just they look like normal ones, you're just stubby, or are they?
They're about
It's
half
the little
size of
church
the regular
buses,
bus.
you know, when
Okay.
they used to go pick up the 5 kids that needed to go to, yeah, so I think it's a innovative new way of thinking.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how that goes too.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, couple things. The Oregon Active Transportation Summit's coming up very soon. It's not free, so if you wanted to spend money, it's like within a couple of weeks too. I think it's a few $100s to go, but it's the 10th anniversary. So if someone was interested in going,
Is it virtual?
I don't know. I'd have to check that out. The Oregon Active Transportation Network Summit, that's what it is, yeah. The other thing was, I was listening to Strong Towns, and some of you guys might know that one. But he was interviewing this guy, and before I go into it, I don't want to say that we need this because we have a problem, but it's and I'm also not endorsing any particular product, but it's this thing called getcheckapp.com, and it's about when people are pulled over for traffic stops. And in this particular app, you press the button and it starts recording, and it has your digital copy of your ID, so you don't have to reach for it. And as we've seen in the media, there are sometimes some people are stopped by the police, and sometimes they don't survive. So it's one of those things that will help people who might be at a little more risk. So it's called getcheckapp.com. So if you're interested in looking at it and maybe sharing it with anyone you know. And I know I promised to send you guys the AARP link, and I did not, and I will do that. So that is it for me.
God, thank you.
I don't have anything new. I'm rolling around, but not on a bike.
Right. Well, at least you're up and moving.
Yep.
That's good.
I'm grateful I'm able to walk, or sort of walk, and I could ride a stationary bike as far as I've gotten so far.
That's good. Yeah. Baby steps, right?
Yes.
Or baby pedals. Jamie, anything?
No comments here.
Okay. All right, let's move on to our staff report. Mike, I know he stole your thunder with
I know, I was going to say, I was going to report on the bike repair station at Keizer Rapids Park, so, well, what the heck. So it's been installed, our storm crew put that in last week. They poured the concrete pad and then got the tamper-proof bolts and put both the repair station and then the tire pump right next to it. So, and it's a big enough pad that the people working on their bikes can get off with children and whatnot, off of the beaten path where everyone will be walking along in the crowded time. So that's kind of cool. And then a couple things, we have a couple of bids coming in shortly, and one is for the pavement marking legends, and that's something we do yearly, is refresh our stop bars and our bicycle guys in the street and our crosswalks and yellow curbing, school zones, and so on and so forth. So that one, that's coming in for the bid the 22nd. And then following that one, there's another bid for curb ramps in town, and those curb ramps are in preparation for a resurfacing project this summer of local streets. So now, before we resurface a street, we update all the ADA, all the curb ramps to current ADA standards. So this project has 31 ramps that will be updated. So there are currently ramps there, they just don't meet the standards. So that project happens first, and then when that's completed, we'll get in after the new fiscal year and get the streets paved. So
So, was there any discussion on that or the spraying for like bulb outs?
For what?
Bulb outs for the street, for the ramps, where you have the bulb out at the corner to make the
No,
crossing a little bit.
this is taking current streets, and there's existing ramps there right now, and it's basically pulling those out and putting back ADA standards and then resurfacing through that. So there wasn't any discussion on that. It's just basically just take it, put it back, and so we're able to get new asphalt down.
And for the spraying, is that, it would be the bike line as well as the guy on the bike?
The county does our striping, so when it comes to the stripes down River Road and our other arterials, that would be the county. When it comes to the pavement legends, so those are the physical things that you see in the road, like the school zone, the riding school zone, or crosswalks. Those are separate contract that every few years that contracts do, and so we put it out to bid and start over again.
So with the one then for the stripe that the county does, can we have a discussion with them where, because some places, maybe we could put in a little buffer strip along the bike if there's room. So that way you have the one stripe where the cars are, and you got a little buffer of a foot that's got a stripe that's at an angle to that one, and then you've got what would have been the normal bike stripe. So you give a little extra cushion for bicyclists. So I don't know, who would we talk to, or can we talk to someone about that? Or at least bring that up to somebody as an idea?
Well, you brought it up to me, so maybe you and I can talk a little bit more about it, and I can understand exactly where you're talking about and what that involves, and we can go from there, Mike.
Okay.
Do you know how the ramps are being prioritized? 31 of them.
The prioritization went with all those streets being resurfaced. So if you have 10 streets and each street has 5 ramps that are out of, current standards, then those 5 ramps are being replaced. So it's.
That map with all the red areas where the ramps aren't ADA compliant.
Yeah, and on that map you're talking about, and it showed the different widths of sidewalks and whatnot. And then there was another one where our guys went around and rated them to, I think, excellent, fair, or poor. So some of those now will change to excellent since that study was done. But so those are, the streets are resurfacing are in local neighborhoods where those ramps were built many, many years ago. So they need to be upgraded before we pave.
So I guess that kind of triggers another question, which is you mentioned that the grading of the sidewalks. Is that information available to the public? How the sidewalks are.
I have
Our standards?
Yes.
Those are in the City of Keizer design standards. Standard 42-D explains, certain.
The inventory of these.
the evaluation.
Are not, the evaluations.
That's online.
Well, I saw that on that website that, was that Mike Jaffe, or, no, someone from Willamette, COG sent over. I thought there was something that had, if you clicked a little more around, it had more than just the sidewalk widths. It also had how they were rated as part of that. So,
All right.
thank you.
Question for Mike?
Mike,
sorry.
you might know that our daughter Rochelle lives in Sublimity now. And over there where the main street is and all the cross streets come in, they have both a painted crosswalk and a stop bar, which is kind of unusual. But the stop bar is closer to the main street than the crosswalk is. And we don't have anything like that in Keizer, do we? To me, that's number one, it's confusing. You don't know where to stop. And really, you're inviting people to drive right through the crosswalk to get to the stop bar. It just seems like an odd situation.
No, we don't have anything like that. We have somewhere a stop bar might be prior to a crosswalk.
Yeah,
but
I've seen
not-
that too,
yeah,
where there's
I
a
don't-
reason for stopping back further, yeah. But this
Yeah,
is,
or cutting the corner and having
this is the
something pushed
opposite,
back.
yeah.
but, Interesting.
Wayne, you had?
A question for Michael. When you repave a street, do you look at the sidewalks also? Do you also repair those sidewalks if they need it? Or is it just the street?
Sidewalks are the responsibility of the homeowners, so generally when I'm out and about, I'm focusing on the condition of the street as well as what ramps are involved in the project. And of course, as you're just out and about, looking at things, you do notice, sidewalk in need of repair, but,
Okay, but for now, sidewalks are responsibility of the homeowner.
correct, when you buy the home, you're responsible for the adjacent property, maintaining it. Unlike Salem, who is opposite of us, which makes it confusing for some contractors that come in to do work, because they always reference Salem, and it's like, well,
The city they've used a system called a local improvement district to get streetlights, and there was one neighborhood
Hornet.
several years back, Hornet, that did a sidewalk local improvement district where all of the neighbors all went together and agreed to put a certain amount of money in so they could get the whole sidewalk in their neighborhood fixed. So that is an option. But it's not anything that a lot of people know about, and it would be something good for this committee to kind of get that word out.
Mm-hmm. You got something, Dave?
Yeah, a comment about the sidewalks. When you're out walking around, and if you find a problem, write the address down and turn it into planning department.
turn it into Ben, code
Ben.
enforcement, trip hazard, so on and so forth, go to
Right.
Ben, and then he'll,
And this time of year, I noticed a couple spots, I'm about ready to, I'll wait and see if they do it themselves, but everything starts to bush out, and sometimes tree limbs get a little bit longer and a little bit heavier and hang down in front of a stop sign or a crosswalk sign or whatever.
and that'd be Public Works.
Oh, that's Public Works? But if we give it-
Depending upon
if we give
the
it to
size
Ben,
of,
would he give it to you?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Depending upon the size of it, a lot of times we'll go out and take care of it. If it's something that's an all-day project and it's a little more involved, we just we pick and choose. Sometimes it's a lot easier to just go out there, And of course, if it's a special tree and so on and so forth, or bush, we'll knock on the door and say, hey, do you mind if we just trim this out real quickly and go from there, so.
I remember walking around, I think it was Kennedy. Anyway, walking around the neighborhood and finding places where the sidewalk disappeared because the shrubs have grown over 3 or 4 feet out. And Ben sent them a letter, and the people, I would say 90% of the people went out and fixed the problem, that kind of problem. The problem where the sidewalk is degraded to the point where it's a hazard, most of those are still there. You can't just go out and spray yellow paint on it and say, yeah, I know there's a 3-inch gap here, but
Complaint driven.
yeah. And so when people just need to know that it's their job to fix that. And they'll let it go until they're told they have to fix it.
Well, yeah, because it's thousands of dollars.
Could be, yes.
I had a question on the ramps that you're talking about. So when you're talking about reconstructing them, are we talking like you take the entire corner and you just obliterate it and start from fresh, or you just take an existing curb that doesn't have a cut and you put the cut in? What are we talking about here?
So in intersections where there currently is no ramp, there will now be one. For intersections where there are ramps and they're outdated, we'll take out as much as needed. So, some just drop really quickly and we need, say, 5 feet for the wings. So if you have a radius, we'll go back far enough to get what we need to make it work right. So, and then we might go back another panel or two, depending upon if there's something wrong right here. It's like, it doesn't make sense to put a line right here. Why not go another couple feet to help improve what's behind it? But you have to draw a line because that continues down the street. So generally, you're just talking just the corner and just looking at what's there and cutting out maybe a little bit more to make to make it ADA compliant.
Okay.
So there's the footprint doesn't grow a lot, just a little bit, but it's not much.
Yeah.
So it's basically taking it and setting everything down and making things flatter.
So I remember a couple of years ago now, I think, it's behind the Winco or Waremark. There's that bike path and then
Yeah.
I can't remember those streets, not far from here. But I saw they were doing a whole thing there. And
The whole corner.
the whole corner, if I
Yeah.
recall correctly, they did from zero and start all over again on that one.
So when something gets torn into by a contractor that takes out and changes the curb or ramp that was not there, it's their responsibility to put that back. So
Okay.
that's kind of a different situation. Of course, there's all sorts of types of situations. But yeah, I know the one you're talking about there. It was decided to put a ramp in there because of work that was being done there.
Okay.
Sometimes cheaper.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sergeant Leday, are you done, Mike?
Can I?
You can be. Sergeant Leday is not here tonight, so we will move on to our council liaison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Monday, we expect that the city council is going to be adopting its short-term and long-term goals. And one of the short-term goals is to create, it should be on, is to create a committee training program for committee members and committee chairs. It will be myself and Councilor Kohler are in charge of getting that off the ground, and we're working with the volunteer coordinating committee. We are expecting to do our first kind of training, maybe we're hoping in September, and then at that point, then we will
Ross.
have training for
He still can't hear you, so I don't know if that's scratching. Yeah.
Is that better? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
much better. Okay, so what I was saying is we have as one of our short-term goals is committee member training and committee chair training. And so we're working with myself and Councilor Kohler with the volunteer coordinating committee to develop that program. And we'll probably do a first run in September of this year, and then we'll probably run for all current committee members and chairs probably in October, just to make sure that the purpose of the program is to help everybody be effective committee members and committee chairmen, make sure that the committees are running as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Part of that might involve re-examining the subject areas of each one of the committees. We're still trying to hash that out. So that's one thing that we'll be working on that will likely affect all of you. And then what we'll do is for anyone who is applying to become a committee member, we'll have that training available for them as well. That way, committee members aren't, just thrown on a committee without understanding kind of Robert's rules and all those sorts of things. So this has apparently been something that's been on the council's long-range vision for a while, and now it's got moved up to short-term goals. So we're gonna try and get that done hopefully by the end of the year.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may, in conjunction with that, I started working on our website, the committee websites, and each committee now has, over on the menu on the side, they have a member information page. They can click on that, and on that page, they have a committee protocol page that they can link to and see what's expected them of all the committees. It's general. Then they also have the purpose of each committee. So that comes from the resolution that formed that committee. And then there's also a video of the training that Shannon did for all the committees back in 2007. So you can see all that online. And each committee has other stuff too, like Parks has a section about SDC methodology, that sort sort of thing. So I would urge you to go check it out.
Thank you very much.
Hey, was it that long ago? 2007? Holy cow.
That long ago.
No wonder I'm the only one that remembers.
Okay, well, is that all you have? Thank you. Okay, well, next meeting will be May 20th, and I think we'll continue with the in-person. I haven't seen any problems. No one's asphyxiated from the mask.
I got my shots.
Yeah, I get mine tomorrow, my first one.
I'm fully vaccinated.
All right,
Me
Just
too.
waiting my 20 days out for it to,
so I'm done.
I need some help on the May 3rd meeting.
The council meeting,
Yeah,
okay?
do you think maybe you can take it?
Yeah,
I'll swap you the next one.
yeah, well, I missed my last one, so, yeah,
I had you covered.
thank you. I will write that.
And Jamie, the planning commission joint session on the 19th is virtual.
It's for,
Yes.
it's budget season, so
Oh,
I need
okay.
to step back for the month of May for my regular job.
I'll change that on the, so that I don't do that to you next year either.
Well, Michael owed me a solid for me covering.
That's right.
I
So I
did
got,
his
so
2 weeks
both of
ago.
them all do.
Or 2 months ago.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and it looks like that's all we have, so I will adjourn the meeting.